Part 102. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 1015. Commander Qin Ji is really unexpected. I thought you would have a lot of questions to ask me when you came here, but looking at your appearance now, you seem to be more concerned about your own ship girl's situation than the unknown? The observer looked at Qin Ji standing next to the sea chart and asked with a smile. His words were somewhat unexpected. Qin Ji turned his head to look at the elf-like girl, and a wicked smile appeared on his face. There are some things you won't tell me even if I ask, and there are some things even if I don't ask, I'm sure you'll tell too. If that's the case, then why should I take the initiative to ask? By putting your own problems on the table, isn't that exposing your trump card? The observer couldn't help laughing after hearing this. I remember that when I met you a few years ago, you were still a passionate young man. Unexpectedly, a few years later, you have become as cunning as a fox. I want to know who changed you during this period of time. Is it your ship girl Magi, or is it your ship girl Jinhai, or is it Helena who went to your port area before? Listening to the observer's words, Qin Ji couldn't help but reveal a look of nostalgia in his eyes. Yes, when I first met you, I was under a lot of pressure. But I didn't expect that things have changed. Now that I see you, but there is no longer as much pressure as before. If you really want me to ask a question, then observer, you are observing the world, but there is actually a question that has been bothering me. The numbered world is a projection of the main world. Is the previous world the real world? Members of my fleet, Wan Lao and Wan Anti, are they programs or real? It's really surprising, Commander Qin Ji, you are really the most special commander I have ever seen. I thought you would ask about your future, your fleet, and all the secrets, but now you ask about people who have nothing to do with this battle. Ha, maybe it's just like this that they will choose you. The observer looked at Qin Ji with deep meaning and said. But as you wish, I will explain this problem to you. Although the numbered world is a projection of the main world, it is not created by a high-level AI program. It is precisely because of the projection that a physical world must exist. However, compared to illusion and reality, the people you meet are more of a projection of the main world, that is, a piece of consciousness. This piece of consciousness will be transformed into various different forms through AI self-calculation and environmental simulation in the original consciousness. Just like a person is in different environments and has different experiences, his character and everything will become different. So I explain it this way, can you figure it out? Qin Ji nodded suddenly. Is it like this? Then I'll be relieved. Oh, can you really accept this transformation of consciousness? Aren't you humans the most important thing, is morality and ethics? The observer laughed. Qin Ji smiled and said, have you ever heard of Zhuangzhou Mending? From a different perspective, what you see and feel will become different. If this world is virtual, then the so-called is the real world, viewed from a world in another dimension, virtual or real. Haha, your answer is very interesting, the observer said approvingly. Qin Ji shook his head and turned to look at Guanghui, who had been standing beside him. There is still a lot of brilliance in this world. In addition to this world, there are also many brilliance in other worlds. But for me, standing in front of me now, this thing that can be touched is what I think is the true glory. So it doesn't matter whether he is real or fake, I just need to know that she is unique to me. Commander, Guanghui was moved. Perhaps for her, this was the best love word in the world. That's true. With the advancement of science and technology, more incredible things will appear in front of people. Whether to choose to accept or reject them is a question that humans have been exploring for a long time. But whether it is acceptance or rejection, the development of science and technology will never be stagnated by human will. Even if the world is artificially stagnant, the extension of technology is there, and you can pick it as long as you pick it. The observer nodded. Commander Qin Ji, since you have asked me a question, how about you answer me a question as reward? Qin Ji's body tightened. Was it finally coming? Without waiting for Qin Ji's response, the observer said to himself, if you were asked to lead a world, in a universe with unlimited technological development, what would you choose to do? Be a pioneer who is moving forward, or be a conservative where is the person? Qin Ji looked at the observer and smiled, so is this your problem? It's not easy to answer this question. Technology is a double-edged sword. It can bring a world to prosperity, or it can bring a world to an abyss. I think you know this situation very well. The observer smiled and said, yes, that's why I want to ask you this question. You come from a world completely different from the original world. If it were you, what would you choose? Qin Ji thought for a moment and looked at the observer. I will choose to confirm the national ideological trend of the world where I live, and then choose to embrace technology according to the national ideological trend. Ideology, the observer looked at Qin Ji with interest. The development of science and technology in a world cannot be separated from the society in which it lives, and depends on the degree of tolerance of this society for the development of science and technology. As far as the several currents of thought are known, rights protectionism, xenophobia, militarism, idealism, materialism, egalitarianism, xenophobia, pacifism, Gestalt consciousness, etc. all have their own advantages and disadvantages. Each trend of thought brings a different understanding of technology, and its focus is also different. Just like pacifism, the development of force is used to defend against militarism, and the development of force is used for aggression. Different emphasis will lead to completely different results. Determine the ideological trend that all citizens of your world believe in, so that you can avoid more detours in embracing technology. After all, the purpose of developing technology is always to serve society. If it is separated from society, then technology will be useless. Qin Ji said. Then I want to know what kind of ideological doctrine Commander Qin Ji follows, the observer laughed. Qin Ji looked at the observer and couldn't help but smile. I don't know if you have heard of the saying, people change because of the environment. If the world I live in needs me to be a pacifist, then I will not do it at all. Hesitantly choose to become a pacifist. If my world needs me to become a militarist, then I will choose to become a militarist without hesitation. Whether for rulers or citizens, they are just screws in the huge machine of the world. My own consciousness is too small compared to the thoughts of the entire society. Then what if this trend of thought will take your world into the abyss, the observer asked seriously. Then I will take my world to occupy this abyss, and then become the king of this abyss. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1016. It's an interesting answer, but it's also very tricky. Commander Qin Ji, now it's your turn to ask the question, the observer laughed. Qin Ji said helplessly, so do you have to play this little game? Don't you think this is very interesting? Only by testing each other can you know what the other person is thinking, the observer said with a smile, and it seemed that she was enjoying it. Okay, Qin Ji nodded and looked at the observer in front of him. Then what is the final outcome of this world? Will it be deleted like a ball of data, or should it continue to be where it should be? The observer paused slightly, put his finger gently on his lips, stared at Qin Ji with dark golden pupils, and couldn't help but lean forward slightly. Whether it's intuition or the answer, Commander Qin Ji seems to already know everything that follows. It seems we need to launch the final plan of Laplace's demon calculus. Obviously, the observer's words were not meant for Qin Ji. Just between Qin Ji and the gods, a blue light flashed next to the observer. Immediately afterwards, Antiques, whom Qin Ji had never seen before, appeared in front of everyone. Her whole body was pale, and her body seemed to be wrapped in a mink-like coat. She was sitting curled up under a blue jellyfish suit, her eyes closed tightly, and she was holding an unknown doll in her hands, as if she was sleeping. Like in a dream. It's not necessary. The trial is over when he knows it. And he can know all the answers even when Laplace demon can't calculate it, and he can escape the surveillance of the host in this world. Behind this, the energy I possess makes me think of only one person. If it is that adult, all of this will make sense. Although he didn't open his eyes, as his lips closed, Qin knew that these were the words spoken by Antix, whom he had never seen before. "Who are you?" Qin asked doubtfully. Dreamweaver gradually opened his eyes, revealing blue pupils, but his whole body did not move. "First meeting, Commander Qin, you can call me Dreamweaver, or you can call me Observer Mio. I am the core of the Siren system, and I control the Siren system to conduct experiments, which was also planned by the judge." Executor. Qin was stunned, looking at the exquisite doll-like Dreamweaver in front of him, and asked in surprise, "So everything that happens in this world, and what happens in other worlds, is all by your hands?" You can say that Dreamweaver's eyes moved slightly, and a light curtain appeared in front of her, and things happening in various worlds continued to flash on the light curtain. The judge plan is the final guarantee launched when the original world can no longer survive. The effects of this plan are obvious, but there will also be some side effects. Moreover, plans are time-sensitive. Amidst constant changes, even Laplace demon sometimes makes mistakes. And while all this was going on, a powerful force suddenly interfered with the operation of the entire plan, forcing the plan to terminate and restoring the original peace to the original world. Instead, it now became a plan to quell the side effects of the trial plan. The picture in the light curtain jumped very quickly, but the information presented inside also let Qin know the whole story. At this moment, a smile appeared out of thin air. "This matter is their request, and it is also their agreement with me. It's time for all of this to end. What do you think, Qin?" Everyone looked at the place where the sound appeared, and saw three figures appearing there. A man in a white navy uniform stood at the front, with a fiery red and an orchid ship girl behind him. Qin looked at these three figures and finally locked his eyes on the man in front of him. "Song Kinga." "Haha, long time no see." Song Kinga smiled. Qin smiled and nodded. "It's been a long time indeed. Thank you for your continued care." "Don't say that. In fact, I didn't do anything. I just told you something in advance." Song Kinga didn't care that Dreamweaver had such a vision and continued to say to Qin, "These achievements you have today, it's all the result of the hard work of you and your ship girl, so there's no need to thank anyone." Qin waved his hand. "That's what I said, but what you told me in advance gave me enough foresight, and I can make the most suitable choice within a reasonable framework. Moreover, he also has the protection on me. Without him, I would not have been able to come here so generously." "Haha, since you said so, I will accept your thanks." Song Kinga smiled. At this time, he turned to look at Dreamweaver. "Would you blame me for ruining your plan?" Dreamweaver shook his head. "No, I will feel very lucky. If adults ignore this matter, then our future will be full of fog. But if you intervene in this matter, then I can see a glimmer of hope. Even in the future, even when you face the abyss, maybe you won't let it go." "Ha, you are very direct." Song Kinga smiled. "Qin was recommended by me, and I will naturally be responsible for him. However, due to the rules, I cannot directly help you in the future. You need to rely on yourself. But there are always exceptions. The rules that one of my ship girls understands will not be interfered by dimensions. Maybe she can help you when necessary. But you also know her character very well. If you want to get help from her, you must pay more. I think this kind of transaction should be what you expect." Qin was stunned. "The person you are talking about is Akashi?" "Yes, it's that profiteer, Akashi." Song Kinga said, suddenly realizing something was wrong, and quickly changed his words. Shinji grinned, I suddenly feel that it is reasonable, but I still hope that your attack on Akashi will not be so ruthless. I will tell her this, at least let her clearly mark the price, Song Kinga said helplessly. Okay, although it feels a bit unreliable, this is also the best way. Shinji nodded, then looked at the sea chart, then can we stop them? Song Kinga shook his head at this time, let this unfinished battle continue. The last battle that was supposed to solve everything failed to solve anything. This time it must not be terminated arbitrarily. Besides, you don't want to see other conflicts between Ember and Siren in the future, right? Let them use this battle to sort out their grudges. Shinji could only nod, okay. Just when Shinji sighed, Guanghui beside him was already stunned. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1017. Commander. Seeing that everyone else was paying attention to the situation on the sea, Guanghui gently pulled Shinji's sleeve, and her cautious look was not at all like her previous behavior. Shinji turned his head and looked at Guanghui's confused look. He suddenly seemed to know something, and then smiled and said, "What's wrong? If you have any questions, just ask me directly. Don't worry about anything." Guanghui looked at the confident Shinji and nodded involuntarily, then looked at Song Kinga and Dreamweaver in the distance, "So what is all this about?" Shinji smiled and said, "Didn't I tell you before? But the commander only said about the trial at that time, and I really can't understand what is happening now," Guanghui said helplessly. "Okay, let me tell you briefly, combining my previous guesses and the results I just talked about. That is, Song Kinga saved the original world, but because of the judge's plan, so many parallel worlds were created, so the problem is a problem that must be solved. If all these parallel worlds are used to eliminate them, it will be unfair to the development of the parallel world and the ship girls, so they decided to create a living environment for the ship girls in the parallel world. So Song Kinga chose a young and energetic universe as the planet where the girls would live in the future. Originally, getting here should be the most perfect ending, but considering that not every world is like a numbered world, all camps can get along relatively harmoniously. Just like some overworlds, the Azalane represented by White Eagle, Royal, Iris, Balian, and Donghuang are in trouble with the Red Axis represented by Chongying, Iron Blood, Vichy, and Sardinia. This is not only a conceptual issue, but also a matter of attitude. Just like the ideological trends I mentioned to observers before, Azalane's ideological trends are obviously egalitarian and xenophilic, while the Red Axis ideological trends are obviously authoritarian and militaristic. This is also the reason why the two camps collide. As long as there are interests related, some problems will inevitably occur. Therefore, in order to solve these problems, there must be someone to lead them and synthesize these conflicting thoughts together to form a thought trend unique to the ship girls. The best candidate for this was Song Kinga, because he was both the person who solved this problem and the person who created that planet. However, his current height is too high. If he were to lead a ship girl in that low-level universe, it would be too cheap. But if it were placed in a high-latitude world, the ship girl would not be able to adapt, so the candidates would be vacant. Later, perhaps due to destiny, I came to this world and made him aware of my existence, so he wanted to give this position to me. However, in order to reassure the ship girls, under his planning, Dreamweaver held this so-called trial ceremony. It's just that he already told me the answer when the ceremony just started, so I can calmly formulate strategies and cultivate your strength, so that I can reach this point. And another thing is that, according to what the observer just said, the original world seems to be abandoning Rubik's Cube technology and picking up its own technological route again. Perhaps in the future, there will be not only ship girls but also antiques coexisting on that planet. Therefore, Song Kinga allowed this battle to continue. If he wanted to maintain relative peace in the future, the best way was to release all negative emotions. For ship girls, the best way to release negative emotions is to fight. Can you understand what I say? Listening to Qin Ji's summary, Huang Hui nodded suddenly. So it's like this. That's why the commander just asked the observer, what will happen to this world in the future? Qin Ji nodded, turned his head and looked at the scene on the sea. Although I am not an aborigine of this world, I have developed feelings for this world after being in this world for so long. In this kind of relationship, there is not only the bond with you, but also the resonance with other people. Just like Li Chenming and others, just like Antoine and others, just like Dean Prince of Wales and others. I really want to know where this world will go after we leave this world if this battle ends. Should you eliminate all traces of the existence of ship girls in this world and allow your world to develop freely, or should you simply eliminate them like a bunch of data? All worlds will be preserved. This is a multiverse that belongs exclusively to the original world. The only difference from before is that there is no more ship girl in this multiverse at this time. Song Kinga turned his head and said to Qin Ji. Is this okay? Qin Ji asked. All the ship girls were gathered on that planet just to create such a world. And there are also many ship girls who are unwilling to leave their own world because they already have their own commander. I have removed the Rubik's Cube system from their bodies, retained their memories, and transformed them into humans. Allowing them to grow old hand in hand with their commander, and finally die in peace. This may also be the best destination for them. Song Kinga explained. Indeed, after a life of military service, you are disbanded and returned to the field, spending the last good time with the people you deserve to protect and the people you love. This is indeed the most perfect fairy tale. Qin Ji nodded. So I feel a little sorry for you. You could have been like them, but after all, there are more people who need you, Song Kinga said with a hint of apology. Qin Ji waved his hand and said, it doesn't matter. In fact, this kind of life is better. I can stay with them longer and live some exciting lives that I never dared to imagine. I am already very satisfied. That's good. Although I can't exert too much power in that universe, there is one thing I can do, Song Kinga said with a smile. He gently raised his right hand, and a shining symbol appeared on his hand. Although the symbol was so clear, Qin Ji found that he could not understand it and could not remember the shape. The light on his hand flashed, and a white light fell on Qin Ji's eyebrows, but Qin Ji himself didn't feel anything strange. However, Huang Hui on the side covered his mouth in surprise and looked at Qin Ji in disbelief. Commander, you. Qin Ji asked doubtfully, what's wrong? Is it necessary to be so surprised? No, you look, just like when I first saw you. Huang Hui said in surprise, his eyes full of nostalgia. A mirror suddenly appeared in front of Qin Ji, and Qin Ji could see the person in the mirror clearly. There is no sunburn on the skin caused by wind and frost, and there are no wrinkles left by hard work all day long. It seems that everything is just as in the memory, and I feel as if I have just come into this world. Delicate and handsome, but there is a different kind of maturity in those eyes. Do you like it? Song Kinga on the side said with a smile. Thank you so much. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1018. I can only do this. The power of life is the most basic law in every world, and it is also a law that will not cause rejection. Just like what Shinano told you before, unless someone surpasses her strength, only then can she kill you. But I believe it won't happen in that universe. Even if technology develops to its extreme, it will only move towards a four-dimensional universe and will not reach Shinano's level. So using the power of the life equation, you are almost immortal and will have endless life power, just like what you have experienced before. This is my gift to you, and it is what you deserve for assuming that position. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome after you pass away. Song Kinga said with a smile. Qin Ji grinned, it's indeed quite troublesome. Before the final battle begins, why don't we discuss matters in that world? Song Kinga smiled and said, do you not trust yourself? Qin Ji waved his hand, it's not that I don't trust myself. With the help of Ember and Antix, I don't think dealing with things in that world will be as difficult as I imagined. However, when it comes to managing things on a planet, personnel arrangement is the key. If I place my ship girl in a more confidential position, people will say it is nepotism, but I am not familiar with other people. There are so many ship girls in the main world, and no one will be convinced by that time. Another bunch of things. Song Kinga smiled and said, okay, so that's what happened. In fact, you are thinking too much. Even if you arrive in that world, you can just follow the layout of your port area. Ah, Qin Ji said in surprise, is it okay? Song Kinga explained, the ship girls in the main world have experienced a lot of things, and now that they have been freed from those events, they should just want to live quietly. Of course, there are also some people who can't stay idle. You can use your ship girls as your team when the time comes, and then publish recruitment information in that world. At that time, if anyone is willing to participate in the management and development of that planet, they will naturally be bound by your rules. As for nepotism or whatever, you don't have to worry about it. You are the leader of that planet, and using your own ship girl in a relatively confidential position is something that everyone can imagine. They also understand the bond between the commander and their ship girl, so they will not have any objection to this arrangement. As long as you maintain the stability of society, your work is done. Of course, if you want to develop and conquer more galaxies, naturally you can. All of these are your choices. Qin Ji nodded, I understand, then I'll feel relieved. Haha, I believe that with your ability you can adapt to that world very quickly, and with the Dreamweavers and others assisting you and using the Laplace Demon to plan the planet, you will create more brilliant achievements in the future. Song Kinga smiled. Well, I'm looking forward to it too. After that, the two briefly communicated about all the information about that universe. After all, detailed information must be understood slowly after arriving in that world. However, during this conversation, several camps had already left the foggy sea area and arrived at the core sea area. It's really troublesome. If we hadn't dispatched all the destroyers, those agents lurking in the fog and the Siren fleet would have definitely caused us heavy losses. Queen Elizabeth wrinkled her nose and said, Your Majesty, there's nothing we can do about it. Didn't we already talk about reputation and counterattack? The fog in Temp Allens is supposed to cover up the team's trajectory, prevent them from being discovered, and block all communications. And we haven't you seen this before? Jean Sien touched his head and said to Elizabeth. I know, but that would be really troublesome. Originally, not many people came this time, and the fog along the way caused us to lose some emergency repair tools. The subsequent battles may be a bit troublesome, Elizabeth said helplessly. Yes, if you want to return to the open sea, you have to go through the fog. Although we have cleared the enemies along the way, who knows whether new enemies will appear when we go back. Woolen cloth? In addition, except for Guanghui next to the commander, most of the other people outside are injured, and it is impossible to support us. Jean Sien frowned. King George V on the side smiled and said, Your Majesty, don't worry. In fact, we have already considered this situation before, so we have made some space on most aircraft carriers and battleships to load emergency maintenance tools. Our remaining numbers can fully support us in completing this battle. Of course, this is under ideal circumstances. If the battle continues to drag on, we will not only be short of emergency repair tools, but also oil supplies. By then, it will really be fish on the chopping board. The battle won't take that long. This time the battle will be shorter than you think. At this moment, Sheng Sheng, who had been keeping his eyes closed, opened his eyes. Why are you so sure? The Prince of Wales asked doubtfully. Counterattack smiled, because this battle belongs to us, and of course it also belongs to you. In short, you will know when the time comes. Before that, join other camps first. If you come into contact with the enemy too early, then we will be in trouble. Interesting, it seems that you have been hiding something from us, and the commander was also mysterious before. Are you colluding? King George V said, and then she shook her head, but think about it, I think it's impossible. How could it be possible, Commander? The commander does know something, and that's something we don't know either. But as far as this matter is concerned, we have not discussed it with the commander, so you can rest assured, Counterattack explained. Is that so? At this moment, the hunter on the side said, there is the same signal not far away. It seems that someone has come out of the fog and is issuing a public signal for us to gather. Is that so? Then hurry up and gather. As the royal camp approached the signal, other camps leaving the sea fog also detected the signal, so everyone made the same choice and quickly moved towards the signal. As for the place where the signal was released, Helena smiled and looked at the signal amplification facility in front of her. Such behavior is a bit reckless. If they haven't left the foggy area yet and the enemies here receive our signal, wouldn't we face the risk of siege? Yuxian said with a solemn expression. Haha, you can rest assured about this, because we have been monitored since we entered the foggy sea, so whether we send a signal or not, they all know our actions, Helena said. That means the battle will start soon, Jinhai asked. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1019. Oh, did you react so quickly? Helena looked in one direction and said with a smile. Does that mean people from other camps have already passed through that layer of fog? Yuxian said in surprise. Well, there are also embers from other camps, and camps like White Eagle, Heavy Sakura, and Iron Blood all have submarines and expulsions. It's not that difficult to get through this fog, Helena explained. Then can you confirm which camp responded? Jinhai asked. Helena looked into the distance and paused. Iron-blooded. Iron Blood, Jinhai nodded. Since the Bismarck ship modification, and the legendary maritime strength in the camp has gradually taken shape, the Iron Blood's performance is much stronger than before. Well, in addition, the iron-blooded submarines are also very strong, and everyone has discipline and responsibility. It is reasonable to be able to leave the sea fog area so quickly, Yuxian nodded. But what concerns me is that Iron Blood seems to be studying something at the test site, but now that the commander has summoned Bismarck and Frederick the Great to the front line, it is possible that long-term things are not directly related to this battle. Relationship. After listening to some slightly doubtful words, Jinhai chuckled and did not speak directly, but looked at Helena aside. What do you think? Helena smiled. Since the commander didn't tell us, he must have felt that it wasn't necessary. Oh, do you really think that? Jinhai smiled, and there is probably nothing in the port area that you don't know, right? Helena smiled and said, do you really think so? Well, actually, I know a little bit about the thing that Iron Blood is researching. I'm afraid the commander also knows about the existence of that thing. But as for what it is specifically, you will know when the time comes. Got it? Don't you think there's no mystery anymore if you say it now? Jinhai smiled. Yes, if that's the case, then it must be something earth-shattering. Indeed, Helena smiled. At this time, the company on the side looked into the distance and said, here we come. Everyone followed the company's gaze and saw a small black dot in the distant sky, which was obviously the iron-blooded people. Navigating at full speed, it didn't take long for Tai Shui to gather with everyone. When he saw several people from the company and Algeria, Bismarck was stunned for a moment. So you are what the commander said before, The embers that just came to this world. Nizana on the side seemed to want to speak, but was stopped by Scharnhorst. The company did not answer, but Helena answered the answer for her. Most of them have just come to this world, but there are also some who have been to this world, and they gathered together because of this battle. Bismarck nodded. That's it, then you are welcome to join this battle. But having said that, what is the situation of the others now? When we saw you releasing the signal, we rushed over. A few people have already responded to me, and they should be on their way here just like you. Helena nodded. That's good. In the sea fog, there are dangers everywhere, and everyone has just experienced a war. It's great to be able to get out of it safely. Bismarck nodded. That's true, and thanks to the help of Helena and the others, if we just had to pass through the sea fog, regardless of whether we lose our sense of direction or not, the enemies hidden in it would give us a headache for a long time, Xian Shen said with emotion. That said, the most they can do is block your steps. With your current strength, it's relatively easy to pass through the sea fog, Helena said with a smile. Haha, in fact, there is no need for you to struggle with this issue. Instead of lamenting that the road ahead was difficult, it is better to think about what may happen in the future. Frederick the Great smiled at this time. I believe that we have been under the surveillance of the sirens since we entered the sea. It is precisely because of this that they can use the concealment of the sea fog to ambush us or make a sneak attack on us. I think Miss Helena also had this idea, so she released the signal so openly, right? He is indeed Frederick the Great. Helena smiled. It's exactly what you said. According to the time we received your signal, we rushed here. This period of time is neither long nor short, but within such a long time, there are obviously no traces of fighting here, so now are the sirens waiting for us all to gather before engaging in the final battle, Frederick the Great said with a smile. Maybe, then what did Frederick the Great think? Helena asked. My thoughts, Frederick the Great smiled, this is a bit unreasonable, isn't it? They intercepted us in the fog, but they didn't attack us one by one when we came out unprepared. Instead, they attacked us one by one. With all the information at our disposal, let us send out a signal, bring everyone together, and reunite the scattered forces. I have only seen this method in some knight novels. Just like a king who wants to test the strength of a knight, he first sets up layers of obstacles for the knight to pass, and then the final test comes at the end. It seems that we have been walking on this road since we entered the sea until now. Helena smiled, but the knight's final goal is to be loyal, but our goal is to annihilate them, so I don't think they need to be kind to us. Perhaps, they also need time to deal with some things now. While we are consuming time, it is also what they expect to see. This is really an interesting explanation, so what could make them give up the best time to attack us? Asked Frederick the Great. At this time Genhai smiled and said, when we conducted fortress operations in the 4 sea areas before, every arbiter was seriously injured and escaped, and was not killed by us. Is it possible that the time the siren needs to wait is the time it takes for the 4 arbiters to recover? This is an interesting idea. If that is really the case, we will have to face 4 arbiters at the same time. Frederick the Great squinted his eyes. Genhai's intuition was so accurate. If it really happens in the future, if this is the case, then there will be some trouble. Enterprise shook his head, not 4, but 6. 6, everyone present was shocked. Especially Bismarck. She looked at the company and asked, why are you so sure? Enterprise glanced at Bismarck, because I have smelled their scent, so take a good rest. If you are not careful in the battle later, you may really die. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1020. Enterprise's words made Bismarck narrow her eyes slightly, and she vaguely felt that the person in front of her was the leader of these embers. This feeling made her attach great importance to the company's words. She turned around and looked at the iron-blooded people. Everyone rest where you are and try to keep yourself in the best condition. Understood. Regarding Bismarck's order, the iron-blooded people basically followed it unconditionally. Because so far, Bismarck has not made any mistakes. Yuxian and Soviet Rosia on the side also issued orders to Dong Huang and Bailian to rest in place. Although the two camps combined seemed to have relatively few people, no one present could ignore this power. After waiting for a while, other camps gathered together one after another. When the White Eagle camp arrived, North Carolina looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar figure in front of her and exclaimed, "It's you." Such a scene naturally attracted the attention of everyone around him. Although he did not introduce himself, anyone could see the oppression of the company and its position in the embers. However, when asked, Helena was always vague, which made everyone's curiosity even higher. And now North Carolina seems to have seen her before, which makes everyone watch the next reaction. As if he had expected this scene, Enterprise nodded to North Carolina, but did not speak. This situation made North Carolina stunned, and at the same time Bismarck's voice rang out, "Miss North Carolina seems to have met this Ember Enterprise before." Yes, when the Siren Tide broke out before, that is, before Miss Helena appeared, I had seen her while supporting operations in the waters near Guam. North Carolina looked at the Enterprise with a solemn look. Everyone suddenly understood. Bismarck nodded and seemed to be talking to North Carolina, but looked at the Enterprise again. Speaking of this, I do remember when Miss North Carolina returned to the command ship to report to the commander, saying that a person who looks like a ship is asking you for the name of the commander. That's right, North Carolina nodded in confirmation. Until now, she still has a clear memory of that scene. So when I saw the company, I recognized her immediately. Miss Helena said before that they either came to this world very early, or they came to this world recently, and it seems that is the case, Jinhai said with a smile. I do have an idea. If I guess correctly, this corporate lady may be the person who always appeared when we were collecting files at CMHI said with slightly narrowed eyes. The words of the two people were not spoken through the communicator, so not many people heard it. It's very possible that the current situation is getting more and more interesting. The embers that should have been scattered in various worlds have gathered here to have a decisive battle with at least 4 or even 6 arbiters. It's hard not to imagine what's going on here. Is there something secret there? But what puzzles me even more is that the commander actually knows something, Jinhai said softly. So Miss Jinhai suspects that the master is behind this? Tian Cheng asked with a smile. Jinhai shook his head. This is impossible. Although the commander knows something in my consciousness, he definitely cannot be the manipulator behind the scenes. With his temperament, it is impossible for him to do such troublesome things. That's true. Although the Lord works very hard, he would choose not to work if he could. After the whole world becomes chaotic like this, the Lord's workload will increase. This is obviously because he doesn't want to see it. So there is a high probability that it is impossible, Mhi said and laughed. Haha, but now that we have reached this point, it doesn't matter what is hidden in it. The final battle will start soon. Maybe after this battle, we can know everything, Jinhai said. Really? North Carolina's words aroused everyone's discussion, but the number of people gathered at this time was getting larger and larger, so this matter did not attract much attention, because the next focus was always on this battle. With the arrival of the last Sardinian camp, all the groups that came to fight in the Core Sea area this time were assembled. Everyone is here. Miss Helena, do you have anything to say now, or do you have any strategies for the coming battle? Bismarck stepped forward and asked Helena. Haha, Miss Bismarck is joking. It's my first time to come to the sea area, so I don't have anything to say about strategies. However, I do have something to say now, and this can be regarded as for the commander. Helena smiled and said, from joining Minato until now, he has always adhered to the principle of protecting you. As long as it is a slightly dangerous thing, then do it in the safest way. Even if it is a comprehensive attack on the sea area this time, I would rather waste too much time to protect you from harm. This is a good thing, but it is also a bad thing for you. Because the subsequent battle may be a bit brutal, the Arbiter will never be defeated as easily as before the Siren Fortress. When the two of them are together, they can combine with each other and complement each other. You can imagine, if the domain of Strincus is filled with the fog of Arbiter Templarus and you fight Arbiter Hermit, what is your winning rate? So you better be vigilant and be prepared to sacrifice. This is not a joke. And this time, we will be the main attack direction. All you need to do is to assist us in the battle as much as possible. Don't hold back at all. There are 6 arbiters on the opposite side. This is something we have never encountered before. Line up. Bismarck nodded when he heard Helena's words. I understand the commander's thoughts, but I still remember the responsibility and mission of being a ship girl. I believe that other people came here because of this realization. So you can rest assured about the first point. As for the direction of the attack, the commander has already said before we came that the battle after entering the core sea area will be dominated by you and we will be the supplementary one. So now the command will be given to you. You can order us at any time wherever we are needed. Haha, as expected of him, Helena nodded. I won't say any more. I know you Ironbloods have brought that thing, but don't use it yourself. I will give it to you when necessary. You inform us that when the time comes, we will use that thing as our final trump card. Bismarck narrowed his eyes. Miss Helena is very prophetic. Haha, don't think too much, this is what the commander told me, Helena explained. Bismarck suddenly said, then I understand. In that case, let's head towards the final core. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1021. So did you tell Helena? Song Kinga turned around with a smile and asked Qin Ji. Qin Ji rolled his eyes. Basically, I will never speak out about such confidential things, especially what Helena represented at that time was more of a trial of siren cooperation. For a secret weapon like this, it was even less possible for me to speak. However, according to Helena's intuition, and because she is good at radar searches and the like, she will definitely have a very strong curiosity about some unknown things. The location of the experimental site is the most important facility in the port area. It is impossible to say that Helena is not interested. Haha, it really suits her character, Song Kinga said earnestly. Qin Ji was stunned for a moment. Logically speaking, the existence of Ember should be unique, but considering that you have only met them before, so there are 2 Helenas in this world. He, you are indeed Commander Qin Ji. You thought of this so quickly. Shi Kung nodded in admiration. She recognized this person that her commander often mentioned after getting to know him. Qin Ji couldn't help but laugh. If you put it this way, then Helena should be Miss Akaga's strong competitor, right? Haha, although they are competitors, they are not very powerful. Don't you think so, Commander? Akaga looked at Song Kinga with a smile, his eyes full of questions. Ahem, Akagi is naturally my favorite. Seeing Song Kinga's helpless look, Qin Ji smiled and reached out to hold Guanghui's hand next to him. As the two looked at each other, everything was speechless. Tisk, it looks so warm, Commander, I want it too. It seemed that Shi Kung saw the scene and immediately said to Song Kinga. Okay. Just as the two sides were throwing dog food at each other here, everyone had already gathered and started heading towards the depths of the sea. The information disseminated there and the countless enemy fleets were so obvious on everyone's radar. However, when everyone was sailing in the sea, which was originally thought to be full of enemies, seemed extremely calm. Why does it seem so peaceful here? There are so many ambushes blocking it in the fog, Cleveland asked doubtfully as he looked at the silent sea. I don't know. The Bremerton and Denver people who were traveling together shook their heads. Obviously they didn't know why the sea was so calm. They had spent so much effort to torment them before, but they were so quiet when the battle was about to end. Maybe they think it's useless, Baltimore said. It doesn't work, Cleveland asked doubtfully. Even if it doesn't work, you can still use those mass-produced fleets to contain our steppes and waste our ammunition supplies. Prince Eugen, who was not far away, turned his head and smiled at Cleveland. What if we can destroy those mass-produced fleets if we don't need them but need supplies? Ah, everyone was surprised. Prince Eugen looked at the embers marching at the front of the crowd. What do you think is the most difficult battle? The most difficult battle, Baltimore thought for a moment and said, with no support, no companions, no supplies, everywhere is full of despair and death. I think that kind of battle should be the most difficult battle, right? Prince Eugen nodded. Perhaps they have experienced the battles you mentioned. Them, Bremerton said as Prince Eugen looked at the embers at the front. But when they fought with us, they didn't show how powerful they were. Hipper turned around and asked. Prince Eugen smiled and said, I didn't expect that as a sister. Not only would that place be very barren, but your thinking would also be barren. Eugen, Hipper said with a grin. As a sister, she knew exactly what Prince Eugen was talking about. Miss Eugen, are you telling me that when we fought before, those embers didn't use all their strength? Cleveland reacted quickly and said with some surprise. Isn't that something obvious? Prince Eugen put his finger to his mouth and bit it lightly. The reason why it can become a metaship is that it has gone through the so-called awakening stage. The so-called awakening is the effect of stimulation. I asked Nizana before that she was the only one left in the world where she lived. Her camp, her friends, her sisters, her leaders all died in the battle. In this despair, she completed her metamorphosis. Do you think a warrior like this would only have that little attack power? And she clearly said that among the entire embers, her strength was not even ranked in the middle. So how strong do you think the other embers will be? Then it's true that they haven't shown their true strength before. Is it to make us adapt to fighting the Arbiter? Bremerton asked. Suddenly it seems that there is a possibility, Denver said. I know that although we have fought with the Arbiter before, we have not fought with the Arbiter who turned on the overload module. If we don't know anything, we will definitely suffer losses. But with them on hand, we can completely control this loss and allow us to adapt to the rhythm of fighting the Arbiter as quickly as possible. It feels so amazing. Everyone exclaimed. Prince Eugen narrowed his eyes, looked into the distance and said, and one thing I don't know if you have noticed is that in addition to their own ship uniforms, each of those embers has weapons other than ship uniforms. The swords of Filong and Soryu, the long swords of counterattack and prestige, the chains of Scharnhorst and Nizana, even Fuzu and Amagi, they have independently disassembled their own ship equipment and become important weapons in their hands. Hammer. Perhaps this is proof that they are used to the most difficult battles. When they are in a situation with no assistance, no companions, no supplies, and no ammunition, they can also burst out their own strength. Is that so? So it is precisely because of this situation that Siren felt that even if he sent a mass-produced fleet, it would not pose any threat to them, so he simply didn't send it, Cleveland reacted. But why are there so many ambushes when we pass through the foggy sea area? Bremerton looked at Prince Eugen and asked. Haha, because at that time, we were the main force, but now we are not, so do you understand? Prince Eugen explained. Is this, actually like this? Cleveland opened his mouth. Are our actions always being monitored by the sirens? Haha, isn't this a very obvious thing? Prince Eugen stretched his waist, so enjoy the silence before the storm. It won't be as comfortable as it is now. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Mu Ge. Chapter 1022. It seems that as we get closer to the core sea area, the whole sky becomes weirder and darker. The combination of dark red color and gray sky made everyone doubt that they were in hell now when they looked into the distance. Finally, a towering building appeared in the field of vision, similar to the Siren Fortress in several areas outside the core sea area, but this building was larger and wider. That's the Siren Fortress. But why is it so big compared to the others? New Jersey said in surprise. Because it was on the public channel. Helena, who was marching in front, turned around and said, "Haha, because this is the second largest base of antics in each world, and it is basically here in normal times, so that's why it's like this big." Hey, the second largest base? Is there a bigger fortress than this? Not only New Jersey, but others also focused their attention on Helena. Helena nodded. Although this world is now the standard of the main world, it was also a numbered world before, so according to the rules of the numbered world, in this world, the fortress in front of it is Antique's second largest base. As for the first largest base, they call it the host. Host, Bismarck narrowed his eyes. I remember the commander once said that if this world was treated as a virtual game, then these sirens would be the administrators in the game, that is, the GM. Now you say that, then that proves the commander is right. Helena smiled. This is the first time I've heard of this, and the commander can relate to it, but what he said is both right and wrong. What really creates this world is not the mainframes used by Antics now. The mainframes in this world are used to process the experimental data and information that occur in this world, and have certain calculation functions. Of course, it also has one of the most important functions, which is to store Antique's data. This is why even if you kill the purifier, she can still appear. As long as the backup data in the host is not deleted, Antics will regain combat effectiveness by simply replacing it with a new body. So, where is the mainframe of this world? Can the world be restored to stability by destroying the mainframe? North Carolina asked. As the original free ship girl who later joined Qin Ji's fleet, her thoughts on this world compared with other ship girls who were directly summoned by Qin Ji, their feelings are relatively deep. You can say that, but in a world where the host is destroyed, the host of the original world will think that the world has lost its function, and will start the program to eliminate it. Helena did not say anything at this point. They are all ship girls, so-called. It is natural to think of program elimination. Then how to break the situation? If the most critical host cannot be eliminated, these sirens will always exist, and the world will never be peaceful, Bismarck said. Well, actually there are some loopholes in what I said before, that is, there is not only one host in this world. There is not an elite humanoid Antics, just the host corresponding to it. For example, the observer has its corresponding host, the tester also has its corresponding host, etc. As long as you don't wipe out all the hosts in this world, the hosts in the original world will think that there has been a change in this world, so they will not be cleared by the program. Helena said. I see, as long as the protagonist detects that there is a host in this world, the program will not be cleared. Bismarck nodded, and she immediately calmed down. There is room for change in things. If only one host is retained, Bismarck is still very relieved. Especially since a figure of Antics has appeared in the port area before. If possible, if the purifier's host is retained and all other hosts are eliminated, then the world may be able to restore its previous peace. Others also looked relieved. As long as the maximum loss was avoided, there would be room for maneuver. As long as the world regains peace, they can live quietly with their commanders and live an undisturbed life every day. At that time, maybe it was the life of dreams, right? Haha, you don't have to think too far now, because where is the host of Antics in this world? No one knows until now. Even if we want to explore, it will take a certain amount of time, so we should focus on the battle in front of us first. As for these things, we will talk about it later. Helena looked at the people with different expressions and said with a smile. Understood. After being reminded by Helena, everyone came back to their senses and turned their attention to the huge fortress that was gradually getting closer in front of them. As they got closer and closer, everyone discovered that 6 figures were already standing in front of the huge fortress. Empress, Hermit, Strincus, Templarus, Lavos, Tova. Enterprise stopped and looked at the people who were still far away. Her voice rang through the communicator. "Haha, gee, you are finally here, bringing with you the losers of the world," Empress said with a smile. "Humph, if we are considered losers, then who are you?" "Cowards," the company said coldly. "If you could provide timely assistance at that time, would things have developed to this point?" "Gee, it's not that we didn't provide assistance at the beginning. The Laplace demon has already calculated that even if we all mobilize, the final result can only be failure. And if we all fail, what will the world have to resist? Therefore, retreat is the best option. In addition, the Creator's affairs are her own choices. Just like the judge, everyone has to pay a price for such a result. Even the world has to pay a corresponding price, and this is the price of failure," said Hermit. "And from that time to now, you have been traveling among these worlds for such a long time, so you must have the answer in your heart, right? If possible, I still hope that we can join hands because we are of the same origin. Instead of walking on completely opposite paths and becoming enemies like now? Impossible, your so-called plan is just a piece of empty talk. In such a long time and in so many worlds, what have you created? Look around me. They are all the products of your experiments. You have made no progress other than bringing pain to these worlds. If this continues, the original world will be the same," the company said coldly. "Then let's fight. The winner is king. Isn't this the principle that you and I believe in?" Empress said. Snort. Enterprise picked up the bow in his hand, then pulled it tightly, and a golden arrow appeared on it. "Then let's fight." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1023. The arrow emitting yellow light was like a shooting star, breaking the original tranquility on the sea. In an instant, it was like a storm coming, with artillery fire covering the sky. The radiating light actually made the purgatory-like sea surface suddenly become clearer. But immediately afterwards, the cannonball exploded into the sea, erupting into the sky with water columns and smoke. Just retreat and provide fire support at the appropriate place. Leave the frontal battle to us. Just after the battle started, Helena quickly said to Bismarck and others. At this time, Bismarck did not insist on anything, because the pressure of the arrow in the bow just drawn by the company made her clearly know that in a battle of this level, although they now have the strength to participate in it, on the positive side, they are still somewhat incapable of doing so. And before the battle started, they had already made it very clear about their position in this battle, so they didn't hesitate. Understood, Bismarck nodded and said in the communicator instantly, everyone retreats and looks for a suitable place to provide fire support. As everyone gradually retreated, the Embers had already drawn out their weapons and rushed forward along with the continuously flying cannonballs. But this time, they didn't show any signs of compromise, either in terms of speed or determination. I saw the silhouette on the sea like a phantom, quickly approaching several arbiters. They are familiar with the characteristics of the arbiter and know that although distant artillery fire can hit the target, the damage caused is limited. Only close combat coupled with the baptism of cannon fodder can maximize the effective output. With the cover of artillery fire and changes in body shape, several people were very close to the arbiter. At this moment, the thick fog gradually rose, and a pressure of gravity descended on the entire battlefield. At the same time, Arbiter Tempolance and Arbiter Strancus activated their special skills at the same time. While the arbiters who were originally in the sea gradually disappeared, Enterprise and the others lost their attack target. Under the influence of gravity, many of the supporting shells had deviated from the target. On the sea surface, in addition to exploding water columns into the sky, except, it didn't cause any harm. Seeing this, Ember's side did not panic at all, as if they had encountered such coordinated attacks too many times, and they quickly adjusted. And with the combination of several teams, they quickly broke through the fog and attacked deeper into the arbiter's body. As for the gravity stance that appeared before, although it can change the trajectory of the cannonball, it has a very limited effect on the charging embers. At the same time, a group of agents suddenly appeared in the sea. As if they suddenly appeared in the mist, they quickly rushed towards the embers. However, the embers who charged forward seemed not to look at these agents. They just took out their weapons one after another, approached them as quickly as possible, and then started a fierce battle. This posture was completely opposite to the previous posture in the sea outside, which surprised Bismarck and others who saw it behind. However, they also have an expectation in their hearts, that is, how powerful these warriors who travel through various worlds are. In just an instant, the battle broke out. What was different from what everyone imagined was that there was no earth-shattering sound of artillery fire, but instead the sound of the handover of weapons. It is hard to imagine that the ship girl, who represents the most advanced technology, has chosen the most primitive fighting method at this time. However, this fighting method was very effective. At least with the supporting artillery fire from Bismarck and others, those agents who suddenly appeared in the thick fog were quickly torn apart. And just when the embers defeated the agent, the sudden figure of a human appeared in front of them. One is a black figure with armor on his right arm, and the other is a figure sitting on the ship's armor. These two people were none other than Arbiter Strankus and Arbiter Empress, who were far away. Regarding the appearance of these two people, everyone in Ember was not too surprised. At the same moment that the two people appeared, Enterprise had already knocked an arrow and drew his bow, shooting a golden arrow at Empress. The arrow flew towards Empress quickly and hit her directly in the face. But as expected, the scene of Empress being shot did not appear. Instead, she stretched out her hand, and a shield appeared in front of her, firmly blocking the golden arrow. Seeing the arrow that was about to break through the shield but was firmly blocked, Arbiter Empress laughed. "Haha, gee, you really did not disappoint me. Even after such a long time, you have not forgotten to practice at all. Haha, this kind of battle is what I look forward to." Following Empress's words, the golden arrow was bounced out by the power of the shield, but at the same time, a sword light quietly approached, and then struck hard on Empress's shield. Superior. The shield, which was originally a blue, suddenly rippled out and seemed to be crumbling for a moment. Empress narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on the flying dragon behind Enterprise. Although the flying dragon's sword was not unsheathed, what Empress saw was not the same. "Filong, your sword drawing skills are still inferior to those of Cao Sheng." Filong was not angry. He looked at the sword in his hand and nodded, "Yes, compared with Cao Sheng, my swordsmanship is still far behind. After all, I am not like her who uses swordsmanship as her only means. However, with regard to the swordsmanship I have mastered now, I can still handle you." "Haha, interesting, let's see the real chapter next." Empress narrowed his eyes, and the muzzle of the ship's gun suddenly shone with a dazzling light. Seeing this scene, everyone jumped away almost at the same time. And in the next moment, a huge beam of light ejected from Empress's cannon, hitting the sea surface and causing huge waves. And with the power on the side, some of the originally thick sea fog dispersed. This made Bismarck and others in the distance stunned for a moment. "I didn't expect that she didn't show her full strength before." "No, I think she has shown all her strength before, but as Helena said before, now that the 6 sirens are in a linked relationship, their abilities are higher than before." "A lot," Musashi said. I don't think we need to worry so much. Since they have experienced so many battles with the Arbiter, I believe they must be on guard against this. All we have to do is provide sufficient fire support while ensuring our own safety. That's it, said King George V. Yes, Enterprise nodded. Everyone, let's get started. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 1024. Although the only arbiters who rushed forward were Empress and Strankus, it did not mean that only these two people participated in the battle. The other four arbiters also launched their own attacks at the same time. Although everyone was far away, the sea and sky seemed to be covered by barrages and artillery fire in an instant. It seemed that such a situation had been anticipated, and only Enterprise and Reputation counterattack sisters were left to fight Empress and Strankus. The others had already passed the two arbiters and pounced directly on the others in the rear. The battlefield was divided in an instant, and all kinds of barrages flew on the sea surface, causing waves to form. The entire battlefield turned out to be extremely gorgeous. Just when everyone was fighting fiercely, far above the sky, Qin Ji was looking worriedly at the situation below. "Commander, are you nervous?" Guang Hui asked gently. After all, Qin Ji's hand had been holding hers since just now, and she could clearly feel the temperature and strength of that hand. Qin Ji was stunned for a moment, then looked back at Guang Hui and nodded. "If you say you are not worried, it is absolutely impossible. This battle belongs to the Arbiter and Ember. Although we are involved, those two groups are fighting. The aftermath of the release was already like a turbulent wave, and I was really worried that they would be harmed." Guang Hui smiled and said, "Commander, don't worry. As ship girls, we are aware of being hurt, and now we are not the main attack direction, but more auxiliary attacks. In this case, there will be more attention to avoid their attacks, so even if you receive some damage, it won't be too serious. Having said that, I'm not afraid of 10,000, just in case. If that happens, it's really hard to say. If possible, I want to inform them then so that they'd better pay attention," Qin Song said. "Ha, this is not necessary, just let nature take its course." Song Kinga turned his head at this time, looked at Qin Ji and said, "Besides, if an accident occurs, I have a remedy here." Qin Ji's eyes lit up, and he suddenly thought of something. "Are you talking about the same as Helena?" Song Kinga touched her nose. "Helena is special because her body exists, so I can only extract her previous data from her memory and intercept it. This kind of rebirth is not called copying. To use a more professional term, it is called stripping. But if it is your ship girl, then there is no need to bother. Although the ship girl does not have the soul that humans have, she also has core data similar to the soul. And it is recorded in the host of this world, so it is very simple to resurrect." "Is that so?" Qin Ji suddenly felt relieved. Looking at the people still fighting on the sea, he finally let go of the worry in his heart. The battle on the sea is still going on, and the most intense one is the one-on-one battle between Empress and Enterprise. The two of them shuttled across the sea, each attack hitting each other's vital points, but they were easily dodged. Naturally, only two people knew the thrill of it. Other battlefields are not easy either, especially the two new arbiters who have appeared. Their suppression of the Ember ship girls is no weaker than that of Hermit and the others. On the other side, Qin Ji's fleet frowned as he watched his carrier-based aircraft fall one after another under the influence of Steelanku's gravity field. The scope of the gravity field is really too large. It not only affects artillery shells, but also affects carrier-based aircraft. When my carrier-based aircraft passes by the gravity field, as long as the gravity changes slightly, the control will be deformed. Several fleets of carrier-based aircraft have now been destroyed by crashing into the sea. If we want to achieve the expected support, we must first solve the gravity field, otherwise our attacks will be very limited." Hearing Enterprise's words, other aircraft carrier girls also nodded at the same time. The company is right, and the same is true for our carrier-based aircraft now. Even if a carrier-based aircraft breaks through the obstacles of the gravity field and successfully attacks the orbiter, the damage caused is all blocked by the shield, which is almost negligible. If we want to cause foreseeable damage, we must first resolve the existence of the gravity field, so that we can provide timely support. Akagi also frowned and nodded. The gravity field in front of him was really too much of a hindrance. If they kept breaking through the gravity field like this, their carrier-based aircraft would soon be exhausted. I understand, Bismarck nodded, and the communicator connected to the direction of reputation, counterattack. We must first get rid of Arbiter Strankus. The existence of the gravity field hinders our support, and even the aircraft carrier mom's plane can't cross the gravity field at all. I have seen such things, so what do you think? Shen Ming asked while fighting Strankus. We don't have a very good method. Now we can only follow the way we attacked Strankus before, covering it with a lot of firepower to offset his shield, and then you can deal with it at close range, Bismarck said. Understood, we will keep a safe enough distance from her, and we will need your help next, Reputation said. Understood, Bismarck responded quickly, then changed the channel of the communicator and said to everyone in the fleet. Now we will target Stelankus and pour all the firepower on him. It doesn't matter even if we miss him. The most important thing now is the covering firepower. It was necessary to make her gravity field impossible to exist so comfortably, and everyone quickly executed it. Yes. At this time, no one raised any objections. Everyone was united. After knowing Bismarck's order, everyone adjusted the muzzle of the gun almost at the same time and locked their eyes on Strankus. Countless artillery shells, or barrage, poured out, although due to the obstruction of the gravity field, these artillery shells and the barrage were not able to turn around enough. But sometimes quantitative changes can lead to qualitative changes. When the sky full of cannonballs and various barrages fell around Strankus, the sky filled with water splashes exploded from around her. Strankus, who originally relied on the shield to protect his reputation and fight back, wanted to use the gravity field to change the tricks of these shells and the trajectory of the barrage. There were too many people supporting him at this time, and the countless barrage and artillery shells were blocked by the gravity field and changed their directions, so it was impossible for them all to fall on Strankus. But there are still some fish that slip through the net. And with the help of this support, the reputation and counterattacks on the side began to continuously weaken Strankus's shield. As long as Strankus's trouble is solved, the next battle will be much simpler.